Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? You guys sent us a whole stack of articles this time, all about the film and TV scene going global this February.
It's a lot to unpack, yeah.
Award shows, big studio moves, even a peek behind the curtain of some upcoming productions.
Should be a wild ride.
Buckle up then. Let's dive right into the drama, shall we? The award shows, always a good place to start. The SAG Awards, usually they give us some hints about the Oscars, but this year they threw us a curveball.
Big time.
Anora completely shut out.
Yeah, Anora getting snubbed by the Screen Actors Guild. I mean, that film's been winning everywhere else. It makes you wonder, what does this mean for its Oscar chances?
Total wild card now. But hey, on the other side of that coin, we've got Timothée Chalamet.
Right. Taking home Best Actor for playing Bob Dylan in A Complete Unknown.
He disappears into every role he plays. Gotta give him that.
It's generating a lot of buzz. This SAG win definitely puts him in a good spot for the Oscars.
We'll see if the Academy agrees. And then, talk about a surprise, Only Murders in the Building wins for comedy?
Who knew a show about a podcast could win a comedy award?
But they really did tap into something with that show. Though on the flip side, Wicked, with all its nominations, got nothing.
The SAG Awards, they're always full of surprises. Goes to show it's more of an art than a science trying to predict those winners.
Okay, so maybe the SAG Awards left us with more questions than answers, but then we had the ASC Awards, and those gave us some potential Oscar clues. Edward Lachman winning for Maria.
That's the Netflix film with Angelina Jolie as Maria Callas, right?
Oh, one and only.
Interesting. Maria hasn't really been getting as much attention as some of the other Oscar contenders. This win could be what it needs to get noticed.
The ASC Awards have a pretty good track record of predicting the Best Cinematography Oscar, so definitely one to keep an eye on.
Agreed.
Some other notable ASC wins include Nickel Boys and 313, both known for their amazing visuals, I hear. But okay, let's shift gears for a second. From the glitz and glamour of awards season to, well, some of the not-so-glamorous realities the industry's facing. Technicolor, the visual effects powerhouse. They're struggling, like really struggling.
It's a big deal. We're talking about a company that's been a mainstay in the film industry for what feels like forever. They've let go of most of their UK workforce, and from what I've read, things aren't looking much better globally either.
Almost feels like they're imploding. What's going on? Why is this happening to a giant, like, Technicolor?
It's a symptom of some deep-rooted problems within the visual effects industry itself. The pressure to create increasingly complex and realistic effects, often on shoestring budgets and super tight deadlines, it's just not sustainable.
So it's bigger than just Technicolor failing.
Exactly. And honestly, this is only going to get tougher with things like virtual production becoming more popular and the demand for content exploding across all these different platforms. The whole industry needs to find a way to make things work for both the artist and the companies, or the whole thing could collapse.
Okay, that's a little heavy. So how about some good news for a change?
Sure.
Channel 5's new drama of the week. They're really stepping up to support new talent with this initiative.
It's a fantastic opportunity. They're partnering up with Vertigo Films and LA Productions to create 6 one-hour standalone dramas, all about showcasing talent from low-income backgrounds.
That's awesome. Giving those voices a platform is so important, and they're not stopping there.
Nope. They're also working with Clapperboard on a new initiative for directors from diverse backgrounds. Seems like they're really dedicated to making the industry more inclusive.
Good for them. All right, let's talk specific productions. First up, we've got the BBC's Dope Girls. They're taking us back to 1918 Soho, but not in the way you might think. We're talking illegal nightclubs, women running the show. They've even transformed a studio in Wales into this whole gritty, vibrant world.
A fascinating blend of historical drama with a modern feel. The creators, Polly Stenham and Alex Warren, they used Merrick Cohn's book, Dope Girls, The Lives and Crimes of Women Drug Dealers as inspiration.
And with Julianne Nicholson leading the cast and Shannon Murphy directing, it's sure to be visually stunning. Plus, they've got this awesome rock soundtrack that adds a whole other dimension to the experience.
Speaking of captivating performances, we can't forget about the newsreader.
Mark Downey, she's usually known for her comedic roles, but wow, she's completely transformed herself into Evelyn Walters, the show's villain.
She is fantastic. Such range. Really captivating to watch, even when her character's making, well, let's say questionable choices.
She definitely stays with you. The audience seems pretty divided, actually. Some people absolutely hate Evelyn. Others are fascinated by her.
Goes to show the power of a well-crafted character.
Now, speaking of transformations, the UK is undergoing one of its own, aiming to go head-to-head with Hollywood.
They're really going for it, rapidly expanding their studio infrastructure. Pinewood Studios is getting bigger, and there's this proposal for a massive new facility called Shinfield Studios.
And on top of all that, the government's offering tax breaks to attract productions.
They mean business, that's for sure.
Big ambitions. But are there any downsides to this rapid expansion?
Well, like with any large-scale development, there are always challenges. Take the proposed Grove project. It's facing pushback due to environmental concerns. A good reminder that sustainable growth has to be a top priority.
A delicate balance for sure. Okay, on to something a little different. Nicole Lecky's new BBC thriller, Wild Cherry. This one dives deep into the world of the super rich. And let me tell you, it gets messy.
It's a fascinating look at wealth and class, the unspoken rules, the pressure cooker environment.
We've got Lorna, a self-made businesswoman played by Eve Best, and her friend Juliet, from a much more privileged background, played by Carmen Iajogo. Their friendship is tested when their kids get caught up in this scandal at an exclusive school.
Lecky, she also created Mood, which was critically acclaimed. She's known for her sharp social commentary. With Wild Cherry, she's aiming for authenticity, really digging into the complexities of that world.
Definitely a show that makes you think about privilege, power, and how far people will go to protect what they have.
And speaking of thought-provoking topics, other people's money takes us into the shadowy world of tax fraud. It's inspired by some real-life investigations, too.
Wow, okay. What's the angle here?
Well, it's incredibly relevant, especially with all the discussions around wealth inequality and corporate accountability. What makes this series unique is that Jan Schomburg, the creator, has managed to weave a rom-com element into it.
Now that's a twist.
Two guys, Bernd and Sven, they're exploiting loopholes in the tax system, and along the way, they start developing feelings for each other. It's a wild ride, exploring the human side of this complex issue.
Sign me up. Now, this is interesting. Neil Cross, the guy behind Luther, that dark and gritty crime drama, he's taking us in a totally different direction with his new Sky UK thriller, Iris.
Right, starring Niamh Algar as this brilliant code breaker who steals a powerful code and ends up on the run.
Instead of those dark London streets, we're going to sunny Italy.
It's a total shift in tone for Cross. He said he was inspired by those classic 1960s British spy series. So we'll see a lighter, more entertaining side to him that we haven't seen before.
Speaking of shaking things up, let's talk about how Gen Z is changing the game in Hollywood. Get ready for some truth bombs about money.
They're all about transparency. Openly discussing their salaries, which is something that was unheard of in the past. It's forcing the industry to address those long-held secrets about pay and to confront those pay disparities.
There was this article I read about this 20-something in LA. They started at like $30,000 a year and then got bumped up to $80,000. And they were totally open about sharing their financial journey.
It's a movement that could really lead to a more equitable industry for everyone.
About time. Now, for something a little different, Channel 5 is rebranding. They're dropping channel and going with simply 5.
It's more than just a name change, though. They're merging their linear and on-demand services, creating a unified 5 experience.
Interesting. And what does that mean for viewers?
Ben Froh, their chief content officer, he's really emphasizing public service broadcasting, experimenting with new formats, and investing heavily in drama.
So we'll see more of what's been working for them, like All Creatures Great and Small and Dalglyish, but also some fresh, innovative content.
Exactly. It's a smart strategy in today's world where traditional television is facing some serious competition from all these streaming services.
Now let's talk about documentaries for a minute. Claire Sillery, the BBC's head of documentaries, she believes they can play a crucial role in rebuilding trust in a world where people are, well, skeptical.
It's true. People are more inclined to trust individuals over institutions these days. She argues that authentic storytelling, the kind that documentaries do so well, can help to bridge that gap. It's about connecting with people on a personal level and fostering understanding, even when there are differences.
Powerful stuff. Okay, let's move on to Netflix. Despite all the recent talk about cutbacks, they're still investing big in UK productions.
And that's good news for British filmmakers and crew. They're focusing on mainstream content with that global appeal, and they've allocated a sizable chunk of their $18 billion 2025 budget to UK projects. Shows they see the UK as a major player in the global entertainment scene.
It's a big vote of confidence in UK talent, for sure. Sadly, we have to say goodbye to a legend in the industry. Debbie McWilliams, the casting director behind the James Bond franchise, is retiring.
After over 40 years, She shaped the series as we know it, casting everyone from Timothy Dalton to Daniel Craig.
It's the end of an era for sure. Now let's hop over to London for a sneak peek at some of the hot properties at the London TV screenings. Quiche International is making waves with their ambitious drama, Unconditional.
It's a crime thriller about a mother going to any lengths to save her daughter who's been wrongly accused of drug smuggling in Russia. The story takes us from Israel to Georgia to India. Visually, it's going to be stunning.
Quiche is known for high-quality drama, so Unconditional is definitely one to add to the watch list. Meanwhile, Paramount is putting the spotlight on James Norton's historical epic, King and Conqueror.
Lisa Kramer, the president of international television licensing at Paramount, is using the screenings to emphasize their focus on those premium originals for Paramount Plus Mass. They're also looking to sell the shows to other networks after they've premiered on Paramount Plus Mass. Maximize that content reach.
Makes sense. And speaking of reaching a wide audience, ZDF's soccer documentary, FC Hollywood to FC Bayern und die Verrückten, has been making headlines.
A 5-part series, a huge hit in Germany, over 6 million views on ZDF Mediathek.
Wow.
It delves into Bayern Munich's tumultuous period from 1996 to 2001, a time of drama both on and off the field.
Now for something completely different. The Sentinels, a French series launching on Canal Plus Mars.
Super soldier series, blending war, sci-fi, and even a bit of romance. It follows Gabriel, a World War I soldier who's transformed into a super soldier by this secret serum. They're launching it at the London TV screenings as well.
Sounds intense. And speaking of partnerships, Blue Ant Studios and Red Bull Studios are teaming up to develop premium factual content,
focusing on adventure, sports, and culture. Should be some visually stunning projects coming out of that collaboration.
For those who like things a little lighter, Cineflix Rights is bringing the Australian comedy drama Sunny Nights to London.
Starring Will Forte and Darcy Carden. Bound to be hilarious.
And they've also got the crime thriller Verdi and the dystopian sci-fi Heart Attack on their slate. So something for everyone.
It seems like it.
And a quick update on the Film Independent Spirit Awards. They're having to relocate next year because of the 2028 Summer Olympics.
Yeah, the build-out for the games is taking over their usual spot on Santa Monica Beach. They're looking for new venues, but plan to return to the beach once the Olympics are over.
Speaking of returns, the final season of Babylon Berlin is taking us back to 1933 Berlin, in the weeks leading up to Hitler's rise to power.
Volker Busch and Liv Lisa Fries are back as Inspector Jerry Unrath and Charlotte Ritter, facing their final case against the backdrop of a city on the verge of collapse.
This season is based on Volker Kutscher's novel The March Fallen, and it promises to be a powerful conclusion to the series.
Absolutely.
And for the sci-fi fans out there, Big Light Productions is joining the Swedish drama We Come in Peace as a co-producer.
It follows the chaos that erupts in Stockholm after this mysterious object appears in the sky. Frank Spotnitz, the creator of The X-Files, is involved.
Wow.
Premieres in late 2025 on TV4 and ZDF.
Okay, get ready for this one. Charlie Kaufman's new film, Later the War.
Starring Eddie Redmayne, Tessa Thompson, and Patsy Farron. Based on Edo Gaffin's short story, Debbie's Dream House. The plot is still under wraps, but we know it involves a man who manufactures dreams, and eventually he starts creating nightmares.
Sounds like classic Kaufman. Now let's head to Italy for Max's first Italian true crime series, Portobello.
It's a 6-part series about Enzo Tortora, this popular TV host who was wrongly convicted of drug trafficking in the 1970s.
Oh, wow.
Directed by Marco Bellocchio and starring Fabrizio Giafuni. Filming in Rome, set to air on Max in 2026.
Okay, superhero fans, listen up. We have some updates on the DC Studios slate under James Gunn and Peter Safran. Some projects are moving along as planned.
Clayface, for example.
But others, like Waller and The Authority, are facing delays. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow is about halfway through production, and Lanterns just started filming last week. But the real test for this new DC era...
The upcoming Superman film.
A lot riding on that one. Now, this is fun. The BBC is considering a reboot of the classic game show Hole in the Wall.
You remember that one, right? Contestants had to contort themselves to fit through these weird shapes cut out of a moving wall.
So good.
They've got Allison Hammond set to host, and they're filming a pilot to see if the format still works.
Fingers crossed. And for the drama lovers, get ready for Lizzie Kaplan's new Crisis PR series.
From Hallie Pfeiffer and A24. Inspired by the New York Magazine article, Get Me Risa Heller. It's about Abby Abelman, this top New York fixer who specializes in cleaning up scandals.
Oh.
There's a bidding war going on between Hulu, Netflix, and Amazon.
That's how you know it's going to be good.
Let's move on to some renewals and other news. Fox has renewed The Quiz with Balls for a second season.
The one with the giant yellow balls.
The very same. Turned out to be a surprise hit for Fox, their most-watched new series in the 1849 demographic. It's been a success internationally, too, with versions in Spain, Germany, Argentina, and Uruguay.
Who knew giant yellow balls could be so popular? And for those of you who love unique homes, Channel 4 has commissioned a second season of Outrageous Homes with Lawrence Llewellyn and Bowen.
A feast for the eyes, that show, and great for inspiration if you're looking to spice up your living space.
All right, rapid fire round. Other deals and renewals you should know about. New Regency is partnering with Bravado Equity for a crime mystery drama called Beyond. NBC Universal is restructuring its international unscripted TV production. Sky is acquiring the Sarah Snubbed drama, All Her Fault. Dwayne Johnson's Seven Bucks Productions is now with 20th Television. All We Imagine as Light is now streaming on the Criterion Channel. ABC and BBC Studios are renewing their content deal. Moonbug Entertainment is launching the Moonbug channel on Ziggo in the Netherlands. RTS has acquired the comedy drama about Antoine and its companion documentary. Silver Lining Rights has acquired the global sales rights to Dangerous Lies. Unmasking Belle Gibson. Warner Bros. Discovery UK and Ireland has commissioned Secrets of the Curry Kitchen. And Histoire has acquired an Al-Qaeda documentary from Big Media.
Phew, that's a lot to take in.
I know, right? From award show surprises to studio shakeups, behind-the-scenes drama to some incredibly exciting new productions, it's clear that the entertainment world is anything but boring.
What's particularly interesting is how all of this news reflects a bigger shift that's happening in the industry. We're seeing a move toward more diverse storytelling, a real focus on authentic representation, and a growing awareness of the importance of transparency.
So what stood out to you the most from all of this? What are you most excited to see unfold in the coming months? We'll be back soon to break it all down even further, so stay tuned.
It's fascinating, isn't it? How all these different stories you sent us, they actually connect to reveal some of the bigger trends shaping the industry.
Oh, I'm intrigued. What kind of connections are you seeing?
Well, let's take Technicolor's struggles. On the surface, it might seem like just one company's problems, but when you zoom out a bit, it really reflects this immense pressure that VFX companies are under.
To deliver those increasingly complex effects, you mean?
Exactly. And often they're having to do it with limited budgets and super tight deadlines. It's just not a sustainable situation.
So it's not just about Technicolor failing, it's a symptom of something bigger within the visual effects industry.
You got it. And this pressure, it's likely to get even worse with things like virtual production becoming more common and the demand for content just exploding across all these platforms. The industry really needs to figure out a way to make things work, both creatively and financially, if they want to see those VFX artists and companies thrive.
It makes you think about that Gen Z push for salary transparency we were talking about earlier. Could that play a role in creating a more sustainable and equitable environment for everyone in the industry, VFX artists included?
It's a good point. By breaking down that taboo around discussing salaries, Gen Z is forcing this conversation about fair compensation and working conditions, which is something that's been needed for a long time. If studios want to attract and keep that top talent, they've got to address these issues head on.
So we've got these underlying currents of change and pressure running through the industry. What else is standing out to you?
The sheer range of content being made is another thing that's really interesting. You've sent us news about everything from historical dramas like Dope Girls to those gritty crime thrillers like Unconditional and those thought-provoking documentaries. It suggests a real appetite for stories from all different angles, a willingness to explore those complex themes.
Like, audiences are looking for more than just mindless entertainment these days.
Exactly. They want stories that challenge them, make them think, reflect the world around them in all its complexity.
And this trend, it's also reflected in the rise of those international co-productions, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. More collaboration between filmmakers from different countries, which is resulting in those fresh perspectives, unique stories that we wouldn't have seen even a few years ago.
Like We Come in Peace, the Swedish sci-fi drama with Frank Spotnitz involved.
Exactly. It's great to see those cross-cultural partnerships forming. And it's not just about entertainment either. Remember Claire Sillery's point about documentaries playing a role in rebuilding trust? In a world where there's so much misinformation and division, those films have this power to bring people together, cultivate understanding.
It's about finding that common ground, reminding us of our shared humanity, even when we might have different opinions.
Precisely. And hey, let's not forget the power of a little nostalgia either. That potential hole-in-the-wall reboot shows that those classic game shows can still have a place in today's world. Sometimes you just need a bit of lighthearted fun. Speaking of which, let's get back to some of the more captivating news. The final season of Babylon Berlin is taking us right into the heart of 1933 Berlin, those pivotal weeks leading up to Hitler's rise to power.
Volker Bruch and Liv Lisa Fries returning as Inspector Gerion Rath and Charlotte Ritter. Can't wait to see how they navigate this final case with the city on the verge of chaos.
The series has always done an incredible job of capturing the atmosphere of that era, the tensions, and this final season, being based on Volker Kutscher's novel The March Fallen, I think it's going to be incredibly intense.
It's fascinating how Babylon Berlin manages to weave those historical events together with those compelling character journeys.
It goes beyond just the historical setting. The series has always dug into those complexities of human nature, the choices we make, the compromises we accept, that fight to hold on to hope in the face of darkness.
Those themes, they feel so relevant today, don't they, with all the political and social upheaval happening globally?
Absolutely. It's a reminder that history can repeat itself if we're not careful. And it challenges us to really confront those forces that can undermine democracy and lead to authoritarianism.
Sobering stuff. So, we've talked about historical drama, we've touched on sci-fi, there's superhero action brewing. What about those smaller, more character-driven stories? Charlie Kaufman's Later the War, that one sounds like it's going to be a real mind trip.
Kaufman has such a unique way of exploring the human psyche. And with Eddie Redmayne, Tessa Thompson, and Patsy Farron in the cast, it has the potential to be something truly special.
I can't wait to see what he does with it, especially with all the mystery surrounding the plot.
And don't forget about Lizzie Kaplan's upcoming crisis PR drama either. The fact that Hulu, Netflix, and Amazon are all in a bidding war, that says a lot about the demand for those sharp, character-driven stories.
Lizzie Kaplan is brilliant at portraying those complex characters, and this role, Abby Abelman, the New York fixer, cleaning up scandals, it seems perfect for her. It's a good reminder that even in this age of massive superhero films and those sprawling fantasy epics, there's still a strong appetite for those intimate, character-driven stories that explore the nuances of human relationships.
I couldn't agree more. Now, I know we touched on some of those industry deals earlier, but there are a few that I want to highlight because they're particularly interesting. Dwayne Johnson's $7 Productions signing with 20th Television, that's a pretty big deal.
He's become such a force in the industry. This move gives him even more reach and creative control. What kind of projects do you think we'll see him develop for those Disney-owned platforms?
It's tough to say, but I think one thing's for sure, we're going to see a lot more of him on our screens. And on the topic of expanding reach, Moonbug Entertainment launching the Moonbug channel on Ziggo in the Netherlands?
Yeah.
That's a smart move.
Moonbug, they're huge in children's entertainment. Cocomelon, Blippi, all those shows that kids love. This new channel gives them a dedicated platform to reach even more young viewers.
Building that brand loyalty from a young age, it's crucial in today's media landscape. And while we're on the topic of stories that make a difference, RTS acquiring about Antoine and that companion documentary, that's a really heartwarming example of how entertainment can shed light on those important social issues.
The series tells the story of a family with a polyhandicapped child, and the documentary follows the actor, Antoine Perrin-Bedard. It's a beautiful story, celebrating inclusion and the power of human connection.
A reminder that entertainment can be more than just escapism. It can educate, inspire, foster empathy and understanding. And Silver Lining Rights acquiring the global sales rights to Dangerous Lies. Unmasking Belle Gibson, that highlights the demand for those documentaries that expose wrongdoing and hold people accountable.
That documentary digs into the story of Belle Gibson, who built this whole wellness empire based on a lie, claiming she cured her terminal brain cancer through diet. It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of misinformation and the importance of being critical thinkers.
Now, for something a little more delicious, Warner Bros. Discovery UK and Ireland has commissioned Secrets of the Curry Kitchen, a culinary series hosted by Indian restaurateur Asma Khan.
Taking us right inside her acclaimed London restaurant, Darjeeling Express. I love Asma Khan. She's so passionate about traditional Indian cuisine. This series is going to be both informative and visually stunning.
I'm already getting hungry just thinking about it. Looking at everything we've discussed, it really does feel like we're living in this golden age of content creation. There's just so much to watch and experience. Blockbusters, indie films, reality shows, documentaries, you name it.
It's almost overwhelming. In a good way, of course.
Yeah.
But it does make you wonder, how do we navigate all of this? How do we find those stories that really resonate with us?
I think curation becomes essential. We need those trusted sources, whether it's critics, friends, podcasts like this one, to help filter through all the noise and find those hidden gems.
It's about being selective with what we choose to watch and experience, but also being open to new things, stepping outside our comfort zones to explore different genres, perspectives.
That's what's so great about this industry. There's always something new to discover. And with streaming services and international content so accessible these days, the possibilities are pretty much endless.
It feels like we've only just scratched the surface with all this news. There's so much more to explore.
Absolutely. It's a dynamic industry, constantly pushing boundaries.
Mhm.
It's going to be fascinating to see what unfolds in the coming months. What are your initial thoughts on everything we've covered so far? Anything catching your attention in particular?
It's really kind of wild to think about how much the world of film and television has changed, even just in the last few years.
Feels like we're watching a revolution in storytelling unfold in real time, yeah.
And it's not even just about the tech, right? It's about the stories themselves, the different voices being heard, the new perspectives. What are your thoughts on it all?
I think we're seeing a real push for more authenticity, diversity, and inclusion across the board.
It's refreshing to see, that's for sure.
And I think part of what's driving this is the changing audience.
Gen Z and millennials, they're a powerful force these days.
They want content that reflects their values, their experiences. No more cookie cutter stuff. They want something real.
Stories that speak to them, make them think, make sense. Authenticity resonates.
Yeah. Big time. And the industry's taking note. More stories from marginalized communities, more women at the helm, more LGBTQ plus representation.
It's about time, don't you think?
Absolutely. And it's not just a good thing for social justice, it's good for creativity too.
Right. When you open up the storytelling to more voices, more perspectives, you're going to get richer, more interesting stories overall.
Like adding a new spice to a dish just becomes more complex and flavorful.
I love that analogy. But it's important to remember that we're not quite there yet, right? There's still work to do to make sure that everyone has a chance to tell their story, to have their voice heard.
For sure. Still a long way to go.
Now, shifting gears a bit, got to talk about the business side of things for a moment. We've been discussing all these exciting projects, but we also need to remember the financial realities of the industry.
Yeah, those streaming wars, they've really heated up the competition. Everyone's feeling the pressure to deliver those big hits.
And that pressure can sometimes lead to, I don't know, playing it safe, relying on those familiar franchises.
Which can stifle creativity for sure.
It's a balancing act, right? You need those big blockbusters to bring in the cash, but you also need to nurture those original, riskier projects.
Got to keep things fresh. Otherwise, the whole industry stagnates.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to support those independent filmmakers and studios who are really pushing boundaries and challenging the status quo.
They're the ones taking risks, exploring those new ways of telling stories, giving a voice to fresh perspectives.
They keep things interesting. And speaking of the bigger picture, isn't it interesting how interconnected the global entertainment landscape is becoming?
Yeah, we're seeing way more co-productions, international distribution deals, collaborations between different cultures. It's a global industry now, for sure.
And that has a huge impact on the stories being told and the audiences they reach.
No doubt about it. It's an exciting time to be a part of it all. But it's challenging, too. The rules are always changing, the competition is fierce, the stakes are high.
But that's part of what makes it so captivating, wouldn't you say? It's a world of endless possibilities. Creativity and innovation can thrive, and the power of storytelling can truly make a difference.
A powerful force.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of film and television, what's your final message for our listeners?
Stay curious, keep your mind open, and don't be afraid to explore new things. There are so many incredible stories out there just waiting to be discovered.
Great advice. And we'll be right here with you, breaking down the latest news and exploring the trends shaping the future of entertainment. Until next time, thanks for joining us for another deep dive.